Hello and welcome to Spiritual Science 101. We have done quite a bit of work on this course, and me personally, I've done, I would have to say, too much mental work with this course, because I've been wanting to make this ages, I've been wanting to make it free for ages, but there's been loads of hoops and things, and I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't know how to express exactly what was going through, but we're here now, so it's happening now. I'm going to try and cut the pretentious stuff like this to a minimum. So, welcome to Spiritual Science 101. Now, this is a very difficult course to deliver, because unlike literally any other subject that can be summed up in snappy, quick sentences, anthroposophy is not one of them. So everything that is said here in this course is they're not generalizations, but they are ways of expressing, like everything that is said here in this course is ways of expressing like stuff that has been, like knowledge that has been accrued over long periods of research, and then this is how we've interpreted it, and this is how we're spitting it out back into the world in a relatively simple way so the wide majority of people can understand it. Now, we're doing this because people in spiritual science previously were not very good at doing this. They were very good at getting things 100% correct. They were good at getting things right. Because they didn't simplify it at all. It was a million lectures on one tiny subject, which is fine. But I think we're in a new kind of age of how we take in information. So we have to change with the times. So this is the first step forward, in my opinion. And for those of you watching this in the future, this is taking. I am delivering this on Easter with, I don't know, symbolisms there, but let's get into it. Oh, this is what I was going to say, and that whole tangent. There was going to be quite a lot of stuff in this which is going to be massive generalizations. There's going to be quite a lot of stuff in this which we may listen to and think, that's not exactly right. Or maybe the wording's a bit messed up. We're not professionals, we're just doing this for free. And if you think you can do it better, come on, I will let you have a segment on this course. But this is before the course is finished, obviously. But if you think I've got something wrong, or if you want to talk about it some more, come and join the Discord server. It's maybe a bit weird for people who are listening to this in the Discord server, but Rosefolk.xyz, you know the drill. Get over there, join, talk about it. Now, this whole, again, anthroposophy is a really big subject. This whole beginning lecture will be the introduction to anthroposophy, because there's a specific way that you navigate resources about spiritual science, and it's not too specific. It doesn't really matter that much. Well, no, it does matter, but it's not. What am I trying to say here? It's not like overly. It's not a difficult thing. I mean, it is a difficult thing, but when you have the self-awareness of what it is, you should be able to do it. So, the way that we are taught to process information, take in information, argue in Western modern society is polarization, right? It's my team versus your team. I'm right, you're wrong. And there's a name for kind of logic fallacy. I forget what it is exactly, but it's like everything I say is right, everything you say is wrong. And even if you start talking about things that are right, then so say I'm the right one and you're the wrong one. Say you start saying something that is right, I'm going to dislike it and not take it as right, because that's what polarization is. And polarization is a really crazy thing, and it doesn't it doesn't attack you in the way that you'd think. It's not a conscious thing. It's just kind of like a feeling. So unless you confront it with self-awareness, then then you're gonna do some stupid things and come to some stupid conclusions. So essentially what I'm trying to say here is, when you come into this course and any spiritual scientific material, or just anything in life generally, you have to take it, think about it. Don't This is an important thing. It's very difficult to do. Very, very difficult to do. So I'm saying this, I know I'm confronting everybody in the world here, but I know that when you look at new information, you're probably going to have a lens to look at it from. You're probably going to have preconceived notions about it, and you're probably going to have biases. But, and this is the big but, don't do that. It's really hard to, but especially with spiritual scientific material, you have to approach it directly down the middle. You have to be, the word wouldn't be impartial, but you have to be proper about it. You have to not be swayed one way or another. You have to take these ideas, chew them up, think about them, and then come up with your opinion, come up with your thoughts, and do that of your own accord. Do not do that of somebody else's accord, because this is a thing. Quite a lot of people are just regurgitating opinions that have been fed to them via, I don't know, TikTok, school, family, whatever. So it's really important that you don't do that. It's very, very important when taking in anthroposophical stuff that you are impartial. It's not impartial. I feel like there should be a word for this, because impartial is not what I mean. I mean, be objective, be centered, and come out with something sound. The way that I think this is a good kind of metaphor for the way that your thought process should work. So I think of it like an AI, controversial thing to say, but you are essentially given a prompt in the form of an idea or a sentence or a poem or a book or whatever. You're given this thing, you're given this prompt, and then you take it in, you go, your servers start going ham on it, and you internally you process it. And an AI thing does not just generate, it also checks and it balances, and it checks and balances with a reality. So if it's going crazy, so say it's an image generator AI, there will probably be something which checks the image and says this is not right and will send it back. Obviously crazy oversimplification there, but I think you probably know what I'm trying to hint at here. So the AI ping pongs back and forth between these checks and balances, and there are some ones which are good, there are some ones which are reasonable. Scientific skepticism, you're thinking about, is this real? Is this logical? Is this something that can happen? Is this reasonable? Is this going to lead to harm? Is this going to lead to suffering? I'm trying to be vague here because I haven't specified what ideas I mean, but yeah. And it plays and you should play ping pong with it in your head for a bit, and then eventually just come to, and then you eventually, and this is the AI metaphor thing, you spit out the outcome. You spit out's probably not the word, but you generate the outcome. So you generate your opinion, and a sound opinion, one that makes sense, and one that is most likely true. That's how it should work. you should be objective, you should do all this stuff, and then you will eventually come out with an opinion. Be wary that sometimes your opinions can be underbaked and you don't realize it. Like when you're thinking about things, especially big things, you can't just think about them for 10 minutes and then be like, I'm done. I know this, because you don't. Depending on what the opinion is, depending on what the thing is, might take days, hours, months, weeks, years. And what I described there is not something you can do consciously. I mean, it is, kinda, but like it's not, like you can't just wake up and be like, today I'm going to think about this. Like it's something you kind of have to want to do. It's something you have to actively pursue. It's... yeah. Now, another thing with spiritual science is that there is no room for dogma. There is no room for doctrine. There's no room for essentially like prescriptions of beliefs and prescriptions of things. In some fields, sure, you need that. Like, you can't be like, I don't think there's any dogma in chemistry, so I'm just going to throw a load of magnesium into a public bonfire. You can't do that. But what you can do, and this is simple thing. No, this is the talk. This whole talk is like the pre-talk, and then I'm gonna... No, it's not the pre... It's like the precursor to the rest of the lectures. But... yeah, so... like... dogma, doctrine, and stuff in philosophy, in spirituality, there's no... it serves no good purpose. There's no point. It's like you're... specifically spirituality. This like at its core, this course is about spirituality and philosophy. So let's talk about what applies to that. Nobody can tell you what to believe, because you can't change that. You can't change that like willingly. If I said to an atheist, if I said, for the sake of the argument, can you become like can you change your belief to become a genuine Christian or a genuine Hindu or something? They can't. They can say that they can because they've been forced to. They can say that they have because they've been forced to, but they can't. You can't genuinely change your belief, and you can't. Of course, there are ways that you can kind of. There are unethical ways to make someone believe something, but to do it properly, it has to be free. It has to be of someone's own individual thing. You can't make someone believe something just by shouting it at them. So this whole course is going to be made up of ideas and things, and we are going to present them as, I guess, fact. But it's not... we're not saying this is true, this is false, this is the objective true and I'm right and you're wrong. What everybody in this talk is saying, we don't want you to believe us, we don't want you to disregard it, we want you to think about it and come to your own conclusions. If you think, yeah, that's right, you should probably join the Rosefolk or join your local anthroposophical group and talk about it more. If you don't agree, then just like go do something else. Go do something else. This course is free. You don't have to like it's that simple. But don't disagree just because you think that you will. Don't disagree or agree like preemptively is what I'm trying to say. And another thing and this is really important for people who are going to come to the talks in the Discord. I don't know how regular they're going to be, but they should be pretty regular while the course is still going. It is very, very important that you ask questions and that you interrupt speakers and things, because I could just record myself speaking for like an hour, and that could be the course. Or I could actually go into Discord and do it with people. And the reason why is because I want people to ask questions. I'm not just like a... there's so much stuff which is going to come up over this course. People are going to have questions about it, and we are here to answer them. So it's super, super important that you ask questions. And by that, I don't mean just like, oh, at the end, like, ask questions. No, like, if you have something that pops up that you think, that's not right, or I need to know more about this, ask it. Because, like, there's so many times that I've been to lectures and talks and things, and then I've walked out and everybody else is like, but he said this, this is awful, he said that. But the thing is, like, you could just say, like, hey, I don't think this is right because of this, can you justify it to me? And it's that simple. I don't want anybody walking out of here with an incomplete grasp of what I'm trying to say, because that's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to give people things that they fully understand what I'm trying to give to them, and they can take it and they can mull it over, they can think about it, and then they can come to their own conclusions, and their own conclusions will make them more whole. Not that they wouldn't be whole without this, but it's people are going to think about things doing this course that they wouldn't think about otherwise. People are going to be introduced to ideas that they wouldn't have been introduced to otherwise. So even if you listen to this whole course and then you just like leave immediately and you forget about it for the rest of your life, or if you just take one thing, you know, at least that opportunity was there. Not everybody is built for this, but the people who are, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So, I think I'm going to talk a bit more about dogma and stuff, because that's important in understanding this. Because the first time I drop his name on the course, probably first time out of like 100, Rudolf Steiner. He did not, when he goes into like Waldorf, if you've ever read the faculty meetings he has with teachers, he speaks very objectively, and he doesn't back up what he's saying. You know why? And I bet there's probably a million other reasons. I bet that this probably isn't the only reason. It might not even be a reason. But from what I've seen, he's doing this because in the faculty meetings people are trying to ask him to like do stuff and talk, that like he's busy, so he's making decisions and stuff as quickly as possible. But at the same time, he's the guy who's been asked to do this school and to come up with the methodology and stuff, so he is going to be telling people to do things, but also he does not expect, and this is true of literally everything else he says, he doesn't expect for anybody to objectively or blindly believe what he's saying in anything. So you need to preface every single lecture you read in your mind with, this isn't just like a science textbook that I can read and get an understanding of the subject out of. Like, there is actually work that I have to do. Unfortunately, this is not like a cult. Like, we can't just prescribe ideas to you and then be like, okay, you're good, next. Because it's you, the individual, who has to actually do the work. It's you who has to do the mind, has to process it in your mind. It's you who has to, what's it called? It's you. It's only you, and nobody else can do it. There's no miracle solution. There's nothing else. It's you. It's you who has to do this. The work is entirely in your hands. If you want to leave it alone and walk away, then you leave it alone and walk away. If you want to do it, do it. And I see quite a lot of people who think, oh, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. I can think about it later or whatever. But you can't. You can't, because the only thing that is real is the present moment, to some degree. But the only thing, if you're pushing things outside of the present, sometimes you have a good reason to do that, but the only person who can do it is you. And if not now, when? And I'm not saying now, but I mean don't procrastinate. Don't procrastinate and tell yourself, oh, it's not me, it's this other thing. And I'm not asking you to abandon all social obligations and work obligations. I'm just saying, you can push yourself to do this. If you want to do this, you've got to do it. If you don't, that's fine. If you do, you got to do it. But also, it is hard work, but it's also not very hard work, because you're just thinking. You're just thinking about something. And it's not like you've sat down and decided to think about that thing. You're just thinking. You're thinking all the time. You just need time alone doing something. You need time alone doing something kind of boring, maybe, but nothing all-consuming. So no movies, no books. This obviously is going to be a very short time of your day, but if you use it properly, you can dedicate some of your time to thinking about important things. So cooking, gardening, and there's a whole load of things that you can do and think at the same time. And when you're past the thinking stage, you obviously get onto the doing stage, doing the spiritual practices, doing the 6 basic exercises, doing whatever else it is that you would like to do on your spiritual path. But the main thing is, it's you who has to do the work. Sometimes I wish it was easier than that, but there is a very good reason as to why this is the case. But yeah, so essentially what I'm saying here, what the whole point of this lecture is balance. I'm saying essentially that you just need balance. And when you're not free, when someone is trying to control, when you are being controlled, when you are having ideas pushed onto you, that's not balance, because it's somebody else who's putting bags onto the other end of the weighing scale. When you're thinking about things, don't have them one way. Don't be biased one way or another. Do it. Observe objectively. Observe reasonably. Think about your perspective and many others. Be balanced. When you do things, and this is really important, when you do things, you need to actually carry forward what you think. You have to act in accordance with your ideas. You have to put theory into practice. Now this is his parable. If you were the person from this parable, why did you do this? Anyway, so here's a little parable, and this is true. I was camping with a couple of families. It wasn't just me. There was loads of people. There's loads of people, and all the people knew each other. Basically, that's all you need to know. And hold on. And we we just sat at the camp and we were going to go on a walk somewhere. We were going to go to some reservoir. And this woman, who has a son and a daughter, focusing on the son, I have shown this book that I made, which is just, it's like spiritual art, almost. It's like spiritual ideas explained through graphics. And she was opening it, she was reading it, and she looked at this page that said something along the lines of, I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was something along the lines of, if you deny the humanity of one person, then you are wronging all of humanity. Basically, something along those lines. It's like if you try and put someone down, it's not that you're putting an individual down. You're putting down, out of your ill-informed action, you are wronging a whole lot more than you think you are. And she looked at this and she said, this is a good graphic. You should have this printed as a poster or something. So I thought, okay, sure, whatever. Anyway, we go on this walk, and this son is kicking a football. And I don't like football, but he's kicking it next to it. It's not a cliff, it's just like a hill that goes into this reservoir. And this woman is angry. She's really angry at everything that this boy does. But he's kicking this ball, and might I add, he is not like kicking it over the thing. Like, he knows what he's doing. Like, he's not gonna roll into the reservoir. He knows what he's doing. And she says, this was like 2 years ago, can't remember the exact thing, but she says, stop it, you're acting like a half-human. And I was I knew, something deep inside me knew that I would be giving lectures about that moment years in the future. And I was right. But what that shows to me is that quite a lot of people have a very difficult time carrying what they genuinely believe and what they think you should do in certain scenarios. They have a really, really, really difficult time in like actually carrying forward what you believe and what you think, and that's not good. Like, that's just not good. So how do you do that? I don't know. I can't give you a good solution to that. You need to like, every now and then, stop. You say there's a scenario and you're reacting to it. Stop and think. Is this? Do I want to do this? Is this what I genuinely really believe? If it is, carry on. If it isn't, what are you doing? Change it. You need to be more conscious of the things that you do in your life. Yeah, basically. So it's alright to believe in something. It's alright to have the highest, most noble ideals, but when you get really, really angry when someone around you drops a plate, then you need to fix something. And I don't know every single person who listens, every single person who's done this course. I don't know every single person who's watching this as a YouTube video. So it's up to you to find the weak links, almost. It's up to you to solve the problems. And again, while there's really nothing I can do about this for you in the moment, because you have to do the work, just being conscious of it is a start. Just thinking, I may be wrong, helps. It's a start. And there's one. So I'm gonna go over everything. I'm gonna go over one last topic, and then after that, I'm going to go into. I'm gonna do a TLDR. How about that? Give me 1 second here. Okay, now we're good. So And this is something which really infuriates me, actually, but there's nothing I can do about it on a global level. So, essentially, every single person thinks that they're alone in the crowd of sheep. Every single person. Me, you, your grandma, everybody. Every single person thinks, I'm following the shepherd. I'm going along with the flock. But I'm higher. I'm secretly more self-aware. I am something, and these people are not. And even if it isn't like a general worldview, it will still come through when you think about things. It will still come through when you are thinking about big problems. It will still come through in everything. When does it not come up? So, essentially, what you have to do to beat that is you have to just know. You have to, and this is hard to do. This is really, really hard to do. You have to recognize and you have to say, actually, I am not, if you are still following the crowd of sheep, then you are in the crowd of sheep. If you have turned away from the crowd of sheep, but the crowd of sheep is still around you, you're still in the crowd of sheep. But if you have started actively moving away, then you are alone, but there's no crowd of sheep. So it's an interesting metaphor to think about. It's an interesting idea to just hold on to and think about. Think about other people who've been affected by that, and also how you yourself have been affected by that kind of thinking. Because you will have been, let's be real. I hope I explained that well enough. I'm just going to assume that I did. So next part. TLDR. So. Hold on. There's one thing actually I will check to see if this is... Okay. So, one last thing, and I mean it this time. Spiritual science. What the hell is it? To quite a lot of people today, putting those two words together on either side might feel like sacrilegion. And people who are media illiterate might say that it represents like a bad YouTube channel. But essentially, it is what it says on the tin in a way that you wouldn't, if you haven't encountered it before, you wouldn't think. So, I have researched a decent amount of religion. I have researched a very surface level amount. Not surface level. I've researched some science. The scientific method, I know what that is as a start. So, just from my understanding, and I may be wrong, feel free to correct me in any way other than hitting me with your car, there is nothing really that spiritual science is not a contradiction. Spirituality, lots of definitions to it, but right now we'll just say that it is the belief in and practice of fiddling around with worlds, extra physical places. Now Steiner would say supersensory, but the first time I read that word I had no idea what he was meaning. When you hear Steiner say supersensory, essentially what he's saying is extra physical, outside of the physical, not physical. It's something you can't feel with your senses, but you can develop higher senses, your super senses. Not exactly like that. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's just general overview. Anyway, spirituality is a belief in and the and practices of the belief in extra physical places, supersensory places. and supersensory beings, supersensory things. Basically. I say a lot, I should stop doing that. But essentially, that does not, like, in today's media, they make spirituality the butt of the joke, but it is not. It's very, very easy when you have control of both sides of a debate, because you can just make the person who you don't like be really stupid, and there's nothing that the people who actually genuinely stand for those beliefs can do about it, because they are not in the room. So, yeah. And science is scientific method, it's a method. One of the things that quite a lot of staunch materialists get wrong is that they think that science, there's like a big book that says science on the top, and it's got like everything that's right in it. And one of those things is there is no God. But the truth is, it's not that simple. It's never that simple. If it was that simple, then we could all just, like, I don't know, all the scientists could go home. But unfortunately, it's not that simple. You know, it's a method, it's a way of doing things. It's a kind of like an objective way of looking at things. But it's, nowadays, it's mostly materialistic. It's mostly, and it is best suited for observing things in the physical. It's quite a lot of the time as well, they have a real bias. There was this study that there was this very bad study that they did on like healing, on like crystals, but it was just a bad, and this is like quoted as like a, you know, this is like a, ooh, this means that they're not real. But all the study is they asked people if they could feel a vibration from the stones. Some of the stones were fake ones, and there was basically no difference in who said how much vibration was coming off of it. And this is a big thing in how, like, mainstream science in this does not understand what spirituality is even trying to put across, because that's not what anybody is claiming crystals do. Nobody is, like, the point of crystals and using them is not to feel a vibration. It's not to just have immediate results like that. It's not. It's subtle. It's more stronger in some than others. And it's not just like a feeling of vibration in your hand. Essentially what they've done is they've proven that the placebo effect exists, because that's essentially what it is. Like if you give someone something and you say this is vibrating at a very low level because it's got some like uranium inside it or whatever, they're probably going to believe you. But you know, you can do things. You could. I mean, no, I don't think anybody's ever done this, but I would quite like to do a double-blind study with crystals and their effects over like a year or over a couple of months. But nobody, like, science, a big thing in science is the funding. You have to have lots of money to do big studies. You've got to pay the participants, you've got to pay the assistants, you've got to pay everybody. And if you don't have funding, then oops, you can't do that because there's no money. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so there's nothing antithetical. It's not a contradiction. Spiritual science is not a contradiction. And this probably deserves a hot own lecture. I could explain this in way more detail, but I don't want to waste any more of your time. If you want to do more research on this topic, do it, please. But essentially what this kind of anthroposophical way of spiritual science and spiritual science in general really is, you are essentially looking at spiritual things, looking at spiritual ideas, looking at spiritual phenomenons, and just observing them So obviously you're looking at them, you're thinking about them, but also applying the scientific method to that, applying logic to spiritual experiences and spiritual things. It's that simple. So say, you do a spell or something, and the results of the spell happen. Is it because that was going to happen anyway? Or, what are the things around that? Say, I'm using spells here because that's a hot topic at the moment, but it's like, is everything in the spell spiritually, logically, spiritual scientifically, is it contributing to what the spell's actually going to do? Does it matter that you used a specific herb? Does it matter that the intention was there? Does it matter that you did X, Y, and Z? Like, esoterically, does the colour of your room matter? Does the time of day matter? Does all of these things matter? And more importantly, was it you who caused that, or was it just going to happen anyway? So it's something to think about whenever you're thinking about spiritual experiences and things. And it's more scientific than quite a lot of the materialist atheist debunkers, because what they're doing is not science, it's not scientific, it's not logical, because they just hate everything in general, really. But if you observe these things and you think about them logically and you think about them scientifically, which is something that you should do, then you are being more scientific than most people who claim to be super scientific. And just outright denying things, outright saying no, this doesn't exist, without having ample proof, is very much not scientific. So next time you do something spiritual, especially if you're a beginner, next time you do something extra physical, just think about it. Spiritual scientifically, logically, in my spiritual understanding of the world, why would this do this? Where is the quote-unquote power coming from? Why does this happen at all? What are the factors, physical and spiritual, that are affecting this? And just think about it. Just think about it logically. Cause and effect, use the scientific method. Yeah. So, I think that was good. So TLDR. 1. There's no dogma here. There's no doctrine here. You have to do the work. You have to be the one to do the work. If somebody tries forcing something onto you, you're not going to learn properly. It's just not going to work. Especially spiritual things, it has to be done in freedom and in total freedom of mind. You have to know of all of the different paths you can take to choose the right one, and some of them cannot be blocked off for one reason or another. Obviously, some people are going to have some paths blocked off for one reason or another, and they won't be able to change it. But if you can change it, do. I mean, like parents and social situations and things. Some people will not be able to go down the same paths that we can. But if you can make it just a little bit better, then do that. Secondly, please ask questions when you come to these. There would be no point in me not just sitting down and recording this if I wasn't here and prepared to answer questions when I get them. Make sure you check your theory. Make sure that your actions are in line with what you genuinely believe, and if they're not, change them. Make sure that you're not falling victim to thinking that you are better or more self-aware than others, in a general sense, but also in a sense, in a, like, make sure you're not just, like, in certain situations that thought pattern is probably going to come back. Make sure it doesn't. Tell it to go away. What's the other one? Don't blindly believe or disbelieve anything. Think about it. This is about all I can say on that one. Science and spirituality do in fact go together. There's no reason as to why it shouldn't. And you know, even in your own spare time, do some research. Do put together some spiritual practices that have effects. Measure and just see what happens. To change variables. There's no reason as to why that isn't scientific. So, I could say a whole lot more, but this is just the introduction to the course. So, I don't know, think about all the things that I've said in this, come to your own conclusions on them, and hopefully I will see you in the next installment of this course. I don't know when it's going to be. For the people who are watching on YouTube, please go to the link in the description, or just go to Google, type in Rosefolk, and we should be there. It's a Discord server. Alongside this course, we have a whole load of different things. So we have discussion, we have study groups for books and things. We have people who most of the time know what they're talking about, unlike me. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next installment of the course, which, and let me just check to make sure I'm not lying, and obviously to those of you who are taking this course like a course, you will be able to see if I'm lying. It will probably be about freedom, in more in the sense of the philosophy of freedom, like in the book. It's going to be about that. If it's not about freedom, then it's going to be about the spiritual world. But I don't know, we will see. So yeah, now make sure you join the Rosefolk if you haven't already. Thank you for coming, and I will see everybody in the next installment of Spiritual Science 101.